All right, what is going on, everyone? And welcome back to the Mets Weekly Podcast as we are live at this very moment on YouTube and on X to recap the Mets versus Braves series, as well as all the latest news and rumors in New York Mets land. But before we do that, I want to remind everyone to subscribe to the Mets Weekly YouTube channel if you have not already for new episodes of our show that are recorded live after every single series of games during the regular season. For those of you watching or listening on playback, you want to join the conversation in the future, make sure to turn on those post notifications to know when we go live. For those of you in the live chat, we love reading your comments, your questions, your concerns. You feel like you're being ignored, you're not being ignored. We're just going to be starring you throughout the show. We'll try to pull up as many as we can to keep the flow of the conversation going. Make sure to follow Mets Weekly on X and on TikTok for my co-host right here, Frank's instant post-game reactions after every single regular season game, which is titled The Mets Frankly Postgame. And for our audio listeners, make sure to follow us on all of your favorite listening platforms to not miss the audio version of new episodes that drop at 9 a.m. the following day have recorded. Also, make sure to leave us a 5-star review. That would be greatly appreciated. So without further ado, let's get into episode number 145 of our show. And Frank, welcome back. I know you weren't here last episode. I had myself a guest on here to, fill in for you. So if you haven't checked that episode out yet, make sure to go check it out. But other than that, pardon my French or terminology here, because we usually are a very wholesome show here. That was a fucking shit show in Atlanta. It was a fucking shit show all week, and they have played some awful baseball from so many different aspects, possibly all aspects. Obviously, whether you want to call it an overreaction or not, I don't know how you don't leave this week not being very, very angry with what you just saw on the field this last week. Just terrible, unacceptable baseball.
Yeah, I mean, in game one, they had a really good opportunity to win it. They blow it late, but I mean, to then proceed to get essentially blown out the next two games, not really having much of a fight, giving up too many runs and not being able to score on the other end. All granted, facing some very good pitching. I mean, that combination of Schwellenbach, Sale, Schreider, the Braves purposely aligned their rotation that way for their series against the Mets. But still, I mean, like we talk about, if you want to be a postseason team, which is what the Mets have the expectations for, to make a deep postseason run, you're always, a lot of the time, you're going to be facing really good starting pitching. So it's something that you have to adjust. You have to still be able to at least do something against. And for majority of the time, they were doing a whole lot of nothing. And like we talk about, the times they do get on base, most of the time they are stranded. So that definitely was frustrating to watch. And, if it was just like one bad series in Atlanta, which tends to be the case. I mean, what have the Braves won? Like 26 out of the last 36 games in Atlanta against the Mets. I mean, it's a ridiculous number, especially recently. So you're like, you know what? We're used to the Mets not winning in Atlanta. It's very frustrating, but it's not something new. But when it's coming off of that brutal series against the Rays where you got swept at home, it just makes it feel even worse because it's just like a continuation of very poor baseball and poor in a lot of aspects. I mean, the defensive woes, trying to pick up a ball using your catcher's mask, the passed balls. I mean, you have guys walking the ballpark, walking guys, the bases loaded. All right, let's bring another pitcher, walk the next guy with the bases loaded. And like I just mentioned with the hitting, like from so many different areas, this team is currently struggling. And if it was like, oh, well, you know what? A lot of pitchers are hurt right now. That's something we'll get into. And, that's probably why the pitching is not as good as it was to begin the season. But the hitting has still not come around, and we're going to be in July very, very shortly. So it's just frustrating that we've seen the same weakness, and it's still a weakness, but now something that was a strength of ours is becoming weaker as these injuries start to pile up. And the reinforcement situation is just not all that great. I mean, they have a pitcher who's technically ready to return, but they don't even know if that's a good option. And it's like, listen, you gave this guy a very decent contract during the offseason to be in your major league rotation, not to be scared to use him. So, I mean, that does not help with what is going on is that you have guys going down left and right, and you have one that's technically ready to come back, but you're not sure if you want to because you don't know if he's going to be able to get the job done. That's a problem. I mean, there definitely is a lot of things going on. The depth is being tested in the pitching department. They've had to call up a lot of guys. Some been good, some been bad. But when it comes to the hitting, there's nothing. Like there is no one out there to help us. They called him Mauricio. He's just not there right now. He can't hit the breaking ball. Jared Young, I mean, there's nothing there. So it's not like, oh, our offense is struggling. Let's call someone for the minors, see if it could give us a spark. There's nobody there. So, I mean, that definitely has been frustrating too, is that they're kind of stuck with what they have. So to all of a sudden expect this like totally different outcome, and all of a sudden they're going to start hitting with men on base, it's just hard to see it happening when, if anything, it's continuously getting worse. So, I mean, it was a weakness and it's just becoming worse. And it's just frustrating to watch just about every single game.
It all comes down to the consistency with the offense, and it has been inconsistent all year. That this is what it has been all year. And this is a good 3-month sample. This is not 10 games we're overreacting. Out there. Did I lag out?
You did, but you're still
okay.
frozen. You're good.
Okay, cool. I don't know what just happened there, but anyways, like I said, we're getting to the point where it's almost the halfway point, where we're identifying what the identity of this team is, and obviously there's a trade deadline to make those adjustments. We get it. But the trade deadline is not coming anytime soon. You still have a good month of baseball before that happens. So they're going to have to make some adjustments and actually improve in some way to be in a good position by the trade deadline. And yes, they are 15 games over 500, which everyone will continue to shove in your face to tell you to shut up about the team. But these problems have been visible all year long. We talk about the quality of wins all year. We talked about quality of losses. We've talked about the one-run losses that they have had. This last week, they haven't even shown up to work. They really just were nowhere to be found. This was some of the worst baseball they've played all year, and they've had some really bad stretches where they were playing really bad and getting bailed out by the pitching staff. Listen, the pitching staff is in a really tough spot right now with a lot of injuries. Maybe there's some overworking in there. There's a few arms that maybe we have driven into the ground. Very, very possible. But I'm so done past the, Stearns gave us a cheap rotation, it's all his fault. I'm so past that. Because again, they were the top performing department was the pitching to start off this entire season. So I just don't want to hear it. What has been inconsistent the entire year? It has been the offense. The offense, nowhere to be found. And it's the most expensive department of this team. I don't know how many times we can just say that, the pitching's not good. The pitching's not good enough. And yes, the pitching was not good in this series. But what about all the other times where the offense just failed to completely come through? So the pitching I'm willing to give the benefit of the doubt with, because I know it's not fully healthy. Doesn't excuse what you saw from somebody like Clay Holmes yesterday, which was just awful. Or it doesn't excuse plenty of things that you are seeing with, things in this rotation of guys making starts that probably should not be making starts, or guys who are getting innings that they shouldn't be getting innings. But this entire offense has been inconsistent all year. And I'm putting it on them. And I will 100% put it on them because a majority of these losses comes with the timing of this offense, which is nowhere to be found. And yes, the pitching staff continues. It's taking a plummet. We're going into the ground. It's this and that. Where's the hitting been? Where's it been? You scored 5 runs in this series. 5. That's not going to get it done against the Braves. And that's the thing. It's not hanging your hat on the first 10 games. It's not hanging your hat on the first month of games because it's a long season to go. So remember that Braves team that started off 0-8? The Braves are 0-8. Well, guess what? They just kicked your fucking ass. They destroyed you. It's all, like the whole saying of, don't count the chickens before they hatch. Like that old saying. Don't hang your hat on it. Don't hang your hat on it. They're still the Braves. They still got a lot of talent. I don't know how many lessons we have to learn, especially amongst Mets fans, where it's like just because Francisco Lindor hit that home run last year to send us to the playoffs on the brink, that doesn't mean that the Braves franchise is gone forever. That doesn't mean that. And if you've learned anything from Mets baseball, we don't win in that building. There's a reason why Lindor's home run was such a godsend and why it was such a trademark stamp for this franchise. It's such a big moment because stuff like that doesn't happen in Atlanta. It never has. They don't beat them in Atlanta. They haven't been able to for years, for decades. That's why. It has nothing to do with taking out the Braves franchise and destroying their dynasty. No. It's the fact that that doesn't happen. And you got a nice little slap of reality of, yeah, that was a piece of that was, that's a piece that, oh, well, maybe we still can't beat this team in Atlanta. Because if you make mistakes like you did and you play the baseball that you did, they're still going to take advantage of it. Now, will the Braves make the playoffs? I don't know. Do I care yet? No, I don't. But I don't know how many times we can just say, well, the Braves are below 500, so we don't have to worry about them. This should be a cakewalk.
They'll be above 500 very soon, especially because, the good news is that the Mets get to play them 10 more times. So
yeah,
they'll get above 500 very easily once those games come around. So like you said, that excuse, it's getting tougher and tougher to do.
It's getting thinner, getting very thin.
Oh, looks like we have some news potentially.
Yeah. Yeah, I saw that.
Oh boy.
We'll get into that when we talk about the more injuries and more hits that this rotation is taking. But I just don't know how many times we need to learn this lesson of this Braves team is not going anywhere. So again, at some point, they're going to have to figure out a way to be playing this sustainable baseball in these environments because you're going to be playing there a lot. It's really hard for me to just go after the pitching staff. It's really hard for me to say, well, the pitching's been awful when the offense has been the issue all year long. All year long. I just feel like the quality of ABs, the quality of wins, it all just gets stuck up because of the win-loss record. And everyone's going to sit here, like we have said so many times, everyone's going to sit here as like, what happened? This is what happened. You play like this. That's how it works. You play stupid games, you win stupid prizes. And now you've lost 6 in a row. So if anybody feels good after what they just saw and wants to tell me to be positive, fuck you. Because if that is the type of baseball that you're going to validate, you're not worth my time whatsoever. Anyways, I do want to get into the whereabouts of this series and the whole rundown of what happened, obviously, as this team has continued to snowball into another series, lose 6 in a row, like we have said. So let's get into the full rundown of this entire series in Atlanta, the House of Horrors, which we call it that for a reason, like we have said. Here's your full rundown. David Peterson would get game 1. He would start on a roll into the 8th on a low pitch count before allowing back-to-back base runners. Reed Garrett would come on with a 3-run lead, but allow both of Peterson's base runners to score. including one of his own that would tie the game and close the book on Peterson. 7+ innings pitched, 5 hits, 3 earned runs, 3 walks, 3 strikeouts on 93 pitches. Juan Soto would get the Mets off to a fast start in the first with his 14th home run of the year, a solo shot to make it 1-0 Mets. In the second, after a leadoff single by Jeff McNeil and a 1-out walk to Francisco Alvarez, Tyrone Taylor would give the Mets a 3-0 lead on a bloop RBI double to right that was misplayed by Ronald Acuna Jr. Taylor would add on to the Mets' lead in the 5th with his 2nd home run of the year, a solo shot and his 3rd RBI of the game. But after a costly double off first in the 9th by the Mets, Edwin Diaz would come in to toss a 1-2-3 inning with a strikeout to keep it tied at 4 and send the game to extras. However, the Mets offense would fail to even move the pinch runner, Luis Angel Acuna, over. Jared Young would strike out. Francisco Alvarez would fly out, and Ronnie Mauricio would pop out to end the inning. Huascar Brazaban would get the 10th for New York. They would opt to intentionally walk the red-hot Ronald Acuna Jr. to make it 1st and 2nd with nobody out. They'd get Alex Verdugo to pop out for the runners to hold, but a wild pitch by Brazaban that led to Francisco Alvarez throwing to the wrong base, a costly decision, as Matt Olson would walk to load the bases, and Austin Riley would drive in the winning run with a long sacrifice fly to center to walk off the Mets in Game 1, 5-4. Game 2, Paul Blackburn would make the start in place of Kodai Senga, and he'd get into some trouble right away, surrendering a lead-off home run to Ronald Acuna Jr. on the first pitch of the night as part of a 3-run inning. He'd exit the game in the 4th inning for Jose Butto, who would allow the inherited runner to score on a wild pitch and close the book on Blackburn. 3 2/3 innings pitched, 4 hits, 3 earned runs, 1 unearned run, 2 walks, 2 strikeouts on 73 pitches. Butto would come back out for the 5th and toss a scoreless inning. Jose Castillo would get the 6th and work around some base runners to post a scoreless inning with 2 strikeouts. Ty Adcock would come in the 7th, and the Braves would extend their lead on a solo home run by Matt Olson. Justin Garza would pitch the 8th inning and retire the side in order. The Mets would get completely carved up by the reigning National League Cy Young Award winner Chris Sale for 8 2/3 innings, putting up a goose egg in the run column on 5 hits and going quietly in Game 2 to drop the series to Atlanta 5-0. And in Game 3, Clay Holmes would make his 15th start of the year, and he'd struggle to find the strike zone all night long, which led to him forcing in a run with the bases loaded in the 5th inning to give the Braves the lead. Huascar Brazaban would come in and force in another run with the bases loaded with a walk of his own, but finish the inning to close the book on Holmes. 4 2/3 innings, 4 hits, 3 earned runs, 6 walks, 5 strikeouts on a career-high 104 pitches. The Mets would take the lead early in the 2nd after a 1-out single by Tyrone Taylor, followed by a stolen base. Ronnie Mauricio would drive him in on an RBI single, but Huascar Brazaban would come back out for the 6th and load the bases on a lead-off single and 2 walks. Matt Olson would break the game open on a 3-run double. Justin Hagenman would come on and allow his inherited runner to score on an RBI single by Drake Baldwin, but Hagenman was able to turn in a good relief performance to save the bullpen, get 8 outs, walking no one on 39 pitches, but the offense would lay down for the rest of the game, going 1 for 8 with runners in scoring position, striking out 13 times to get swept out of Atlanta 7-1. The Mets are now 45-30 on the season after losing 6 games in a row, with their once 5.5-game lead in the NL East chiseling itself down to a tie with the Phillies going into tonight. And the Phillies, they will be playing them in Philly tonight. So that will pretty much decide who will be in first place after that 3-game set, and we'll get into that a little bit later. But like we said, a complete shit show in Atlanta. Something that we are not, we're familiar with. We've seen them have it many, many times before. But like you said earlier, Frank, coming off of a sweep against the Rays where they looked completely lifeless, and then entering Atlanta how how long until this continues to snowball, and we're starting to hit the panic button here? Which, again, for the next month, without Kodai Senga, without a few guys in this rotation, we'll see what happens and how they piece the innings together. But this adversity is not going to go away very, very quick. But either way, takeaways from this series, putting it all together, just sloppy, embarrassing, humiliating, just draining 3 games in Atlanta, which we've seen before, but it just was, we're getting tired of it. We are getting completely tired of it. I don't even know what to say anymore. Just awful, unacceptable.
Yeah, I mean, like we said, I mean, it has been, it's kind of brewing in a way because we've seen the offense struggle, and we talked about how, you could have a great record, but there's different ways to get that record. You could do it in dominant fashion, or you could do it in close games where you're being carried by your pitching, being bailed out by your pitching. And even with the injuries that the Mets have had to the rotation and all the different moving parts in the bullpen, and with them struggling, especially recently, they still have the best ERA in baseball for now. So even with that, just goes to show you how great it was before, and how we talked about the way it camouflaged how bad the offense had been as far as scoring runs on a consistent basis relative to what they're capable of, the amount of runners that they are stranding. Because if you're good enough to get the runners on, you should be good enough to get the runners in. And they have not been able to do that for a multitude of reasons that we've gone over. And I found it very fascinating that during this series, one of Steve Gelb's reports, he talked about the hitters meeting that Eric Chavez had, talking about the struggles they're having with the runners in scoring position. And Chavez's message was, guys, we've had the pitching really help us and kind of carry us, but, we need to be better with men in scoring position. That's something that we have got to do. And since Eric Chavez had that meeting about needing to be better with runners in scoring position, because we can't always rely on the pitching to bail us out, they've gotten worse. So whatever it was that he finally did trying to do his job, it made it worse. So it's just, I don't know what more you need to see. I mean, in a way, it's like, how many more games do they need to lose and have the offense look this lifeless again, relative to the talent that's on the team, before you have to make a change and be like, we are not getting the most out of what we have? That is the job of a coach. One of the many things is to make the most of what you have. Put these guys on the path to success, especially if they have previous success in their careers. You have so many guys in this lineup who are batting below 250 just in general. Like, I mean, we talk about the numbers, how bad their runners score position, but just in general, they have not been very good offensively. A lot of these guys across the board, and they've been well below projections, below expectations. And it's just been frustrating to see it happen constantly. And the fact that it's getting worse when it already was really bad for a majority of this season is alarming. I just don't know why they're letting this happen. I mean, are they waiting to be last with runners in scoring position as far as batting average, be below the White Sox before they're willing to actually make a change here? Because whatever it is that he's going over, it's getting worse. Like, there's been zero improvement. It's the same issues, same, bad approach and things like that. But also from a managerial standpoint, the personnel that is being trotted out there, you look at tonight's lineup, it's like, why is Jared Young batting sixth? I mean, I don't understand the leash that
I don't really think they have
any
any choice, to be honest.
They do have a choice. I know Beatty has been struggling lately, but Beatty's batting eighth. I'm like, why is Jared Young, who's proven nothing on the major league level, he's batting 148? Why is he batting after Alonso and McNeil? Like, I know Beatty's been bad, but he had a home run off Wheeler when they played in Citi Field earlier this season. You would think Beatty be moved up in the line, put Jared Young down. No. And even, like, why is Jared Young even there to begin with? I know we haven't liked him being on this team, but Starling Marte's been the fourth best hitter according to the statistics. And part of that is because of how bad everyone else has been. But it's like, if you have a way better option, why would you not use it? Why are you going with the guy who, we talk about, depth, roster construction. What is it that Young is providing right now? He bats left-handed, but he doesn't bat well. He does not play a position. He does not have speed. Like, he pitched, I mean, an inning. I mean, he did okay with that, getting the one out, I suppose. I mean, we might need him with the way how many guys are getting hurt. We might need him as a pitcher.
Marte is 7 for 23 against Zach Wheeler in his career.
So. And what is Jared Young going to be? 0 for 3 tonight with a couple of punch outs?
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, so
probably.
Yeah, that's
so. Yeah, maybe you do have a choice. I stand corrected.
Yeah, so I mean, we'll see, but I think overall, I just don't think that putting Jared Young, I mean, it's just one example, but putting him in the lineup tonight is going to help this struggling Mets offense. So, you know, it doesn't help that Alvarez has been abysmal, partly him, maybe partly on the coach. Mauricio really struggling. Yeah. I mean, we don't expect much from Taylor. Soto still is hitting under 250. Like, I mean, it's still just, and Alonso and Lindor are not where they were before. Lindor has not looked the same since the foot injury. So there's a lot of different things going on. Vientos, when he was here, were struggling. I mean, they've had a lot of things go against them. And I just feel like, you know, the way they approach this off season, it's like the bats we added were Soto, and so far he's still not met expectations. And we brought in Winker, who, is he ever coming back? I mean, it's not...
Winker, I've said this I've said this many times, like off stream. I haven't really like discussed it on here, but I think a lot of Mets fans are realizing how much this lineup does miss Jesse Winker. And it's not really just his overall impact on the lineup. It's the fact that he makes it deeper, and they're not getting that right now. I'm seeing a lot of people in the chat talk about the young guys and, you know, the Mauricios, the Alvarez, and Beatty started to cool off. You're not getting anything from Acuna offensively. Obviously, that is more of a note of the development. A ton.
Yeah, I mean, he's exactly. Even Torrens is down to 223. He's cooled off.
Yeah, Torrens has been rough. Yeah.
I mean, the whole catch position has been rough, but I just think that when you're looking at the way they approach this offseason too, it's like the other position player you added was Jose Siri, who, I mean, he's not better than Tyron. That's the thing too. It's like the reinforcement, like if Jose Siri even did come back, I know he had the setback, the lineup only gets worse. So it's like, if you're a team that's struggling offensively and you're like, oh, well, Jose Siri's back, the lineup gets worse. So it's just like, I don't understand.
In some aspects, it gets a little bit. I think if you were to add in Siri, it gets a little bit better, but he needs to get on base in order to be valuable.
Yeah, I mean,
we know that he's not.
Taylor's actually been one of their better hitters. He's been better than Beatty, Vientos, all the young. He's been better than all of them. Yeah. So it's like, I don't love the idea of potentially taking Taylor out, but it's more so just, why are we getting guys who are very redundant? Because it's just kind of like we would have Siri and Taylor just kind of doing the same thing. One of the guys on the bench, like, that's not going to help this lineup. So I just think that it was a pretty redundant move. And of course, the pitcher we traded is going off for Tampa Bay. So, I mean, there you go, of course. But it's just, it's something where, like I was saying, it's not many other avenues they could pursue internally for how they could improve, because we've talked about how much offense has struggled, but what are their other options? Because we've seen it. The guys they've called up, there's nothing there. A lot of these guys are not ready. So it's just been brutal. I get choked up thinking about it.
Yeah. I mean, there's a whole reality in this situation, and people are talking about it in the chat here of, you know, the young guys of everything. It's really has nothing to do with, you know, the guys that they're bringing in and the guys that they're signing or anything. It's a system deficiency type of thing. With this offense, they just can't develop hitters. Like they can't. They haven't been able to, and it's been hidden behind the fact that they have Alonso and McNeil or whatever. Like, it's been hidden behind that for so many years, when you realize that other good organizations give you that type of a system of hitter after hitter after hitter. The Mets haven't been able to. All of these guys underperform. All of them are minimized. All of them don't show you what they are capable of. And when you see this entire lineup where you're talking about it fully healthy, add in Winker, add in Vientos, we know those guys are capable of a lot more, but we always get the worst version of them, because this environment, for some reason, can't develop any offensive efficiency. Ever has been. Hasn't been since the beginning of time. This is why this team has been called a pitcher's franchise. And it shouldn't be, especially with the amount of money they spend on these hitters all the goddamn time. It's stuff that just should not be happening, and it continues to. And I do think that this entire organization is very, very poorly coached, whether it's from the top of the organization or from the very, very bottom of just the overall scarcity of overall hitters. Because I'm scared to see any hitter come up here and do anything, because I don't think they will. I don't. Mauricio looks completely lost. Francisco Alvarez lost from both sides. He looks awful. He belongs in AAA as of right now. He does. He belongs in AAA. He should be in AAA. Has nothing to do with his production or giving up on him or anything. He needs a breather because he looks lost. He's costing us games now. So I don't know what to say. And then Torrens wasn't even any better the next day either. Torrens, I know he rarely makes those mistakes, so I'm not going to completely say, this guy is just as bad and we need to get rid of him too, and he needs to be sent down to AAA in regards to somebody like Luis Torrens. I'm not going to say that, but again, picking up the ball with your mask, come on. Come on, man. Come on, why? There's simple things that they should know.
I know, but we continue to see things that I've never seen. As far as mental mistakes, and it's just I don't know if it's just happening too frequently with too many different guys, especially veteran players, that at some point you have to look at the manager. I mean, because this stuff is just inexcusable. It's what is it that you went over during spring training? What is it that you guys are practicing? Because what you see, I talk about what your reaction is. Alvarez, for example, when he had the play where he's throwing to second base instead of throwing to third and the guy moves over to third, it's just their instincts are the wrong thing. So, a lot of these guys, they're either just programmed wrong or coached wrong. Yeah. Because a lot of times, if it's a quick decision, they make the wrong decision. And it's just, it keeps happening over and over.
Yeah, and it constantly happens over and over again.
And the Rays, really exploited with the bunting and the stealing. This team was oh my gosh, someone bunts, what do we do? They were in a mess. You had a guy bunting, and they tried to hit him in the head, and it's a wild pitch. They've just, so lost with stuff like that.
So discombobulated. So all over the place. And it comes to coaching. That's a coaching issue. Again, when it talks about, M-Easy, again, if hitting coaches are so overrated, then why is the entire lineup terrible?
And why do they have two of them?
Why do they have two of them? That's another thing. The Mets have two hitting coaches.
But back in my day, we didn't even have hitting coaches.
Yeah. So, again, then why is it like this throughout the entire system where this team can't get any good hitters? Ever. Ever. And even if they get a good hitter, they never get the best version of them. At some point, it's got to be looked at a lot deeper. Another one, Francisco Lindor. I don't know if it's the toe injury or anything that's bothering him. He's obviously playing through it. I don't want to completely throw him under the bus, because I think he's realized that he's not hitting well. He's obviously not hitting well. He said it. He said it's really hard to have that type of production when your leadoff hitter isn't getting on. As we all know, that is Francisco Lindor. So he held himself accountable in that way, and that's what he's been able to do. I don't know if that's an issue. I have no clue. But it's really, really hard to say that this isn't a full-on system issue when you see the entire team doing it. That's the thing. And that's the reason why we call this a coaching issue, because we see the entire team making it's not one player that the coaching is ruining, or the coaching is having a bad impression. It's the entire team. We've had plenty of examples of this coaching being constantly incompetent and completely second fiddle. And this is the reason why this team will never amount to the levels of those teams that they want to be. Because on the back end of, they're top 5 in all these categories and they're hitting the ball hard. Okay. but they still are lacking a lot of different things that makes it an efficient offense. And that's what really bugs me, to see things completely get shoved behind these face value stats that have absolutely nothing to do with if this team succeeds or not. That's all just production. How are these guys actually going to produce in these certain situations? And when we're constantly see them screwing up in these situations with runners in scoring position, in these high pressure situations, what does that fall on? Not to mention, like what you just said, well, we have, like Eric Chavez saying, we have to be better. Well, no shit.
Yeah,
no shit, like, you need to be better.
But how are you going to do it? Like, you know,
how are you going to do it?
What
he doesn't have a solution.
Are we going to make to change the result? Because it's
they didn't
like,
make one.
Because I mean, it's just like so silly. Because these guys know that they're second to last. They know they struggle with the men on base. Like, we know that. So him saying, "Oh, guys, we're really struggling with men on base. We have to get better." Like, yeah, no kidding. Everybody knows that. So it's like, thanks, Captain Obvious. Can we like actually talk about approach and doing some different things and make some adjustments? Like, it's just very frustrating. And still, the way they're constructed with you have your star player you paid $800 million to, who draws a ton of walks on a team that, as a guy who doesn't steal bases, and a whole team that doesn't steal bases, and it's just, we see like how many times you finally do get a hit and they don't score. You know, like it feels like so much work to score a single run, and that's the other thing that's just like
premium offense,
really, really frustrating.
Yeah, and we're giving the players the heat too, but when you're talking about this throughout the entirety of the team, and everybody that comes in here of how they produce in here, you have to look a little bit higher. Because you can't fire the entire team.
Machine.
What?
And then Wilmer Flores is an RBI machine.
Yeah. And we see plenty of hitters leave here and do even better. Somebody mentioned PCA. PCA's been incredible. He's been one of the best outfielders in all of baseball this year. I don't know, maybe it's because he's pulling fly balls and he's able to resort to power. He's been 20-20 so far this season. Would we have gotten that under here? No. The guy would be a fourth outfielder here.
Yeah.
It's been known. Again, it's just, it's not good. It's not good enough. It's an overall system deficiency, and it shows. And it's showing you with these young players. Beatty has disappeared since that big stretch that he had when he got back from when he got called up. Vientos is hurt and was not hitting well and completely has fallen off from last year. Alvarez has been terrible. Acuna gives you basically nothing unless he gets on base. What is Drew Gilbert going to give you? Nothing. He won't do anything. You want Ryan Clifford up here right now with what they're allowed to give you? Like what these hitting coaches are preaching to these guys? And not to mention the fact that they're like accepting it. They're enabling it. They're okay with it. So what is the problem? Is it the actual players, or is it the coaches enabling it? I don't know how many times we can have this discussion. It's like they don't develop hitters.
Well, even Tyrone
the
Taylor,
fact that we can count those hitters that they've developed on our hand is a problem.
Yeah. Even Taylor was a guy who would hit a decent amount of home runs. He was with the Brewers. He finally hit his second home run the other night. Like, he's not going to, as far as when it comes to hitting for power, he's not doing what he did in Milwaukee. So that's another guy who, like, he changed environments and not the same power hitter. Nowhere near it.
I don't know. I feel like we're all trying to find solutions and not we're trying to find solutions before we address the problem. And that's the problem that I have here. It's like, oh, well, just bring in Jared Young. And some people are mentioning Joey Meneses. Like, he ain't fixing anything. Like, that's not fixing anything. It won't. I just don't know how many times we can, diddle around this and not, and not address what they need to address. And it's a constant, and it constantly gets hidden behind, well, they got a winning record, so let's just ignore that here. Eventually it's going to catch up to you. And at some point, they're going to have to address this, because the constant system deficiency that you're seeing here of hitters underperforming, is it just a coincidence? Or is this something that needs to be addressed? Because all I'm seeing is a team that is wasting away the ceiling of an offense that can be fantastic. Because if this is the best this offense can give you, we're in big trouble. Big trouble. Massive trouble. We're also blaming the players. We're also blaming them. But it goes beyond them too. Way beyond them too. Especially with all the stories we have heard from the fantastic Eric Chavez. I mean, this has nothing to do with the context or anything in these high-pressure situations, but did anybody know that Eric Chavez is one of the worst postseason hitters of all time? Anyone know that?
How often do you even
just
get
saying.
there?
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
James McCann, JT Realmuto. I'm just saying. I mean, I don't know how many times we can point this out of what is an issue and what isn't. But either way, in this series, the Braves owned us. They dunked on us for the entirety of these 3 games. And it really, the sad part is that it really looked like for the first few innings in that first game where it's like, oh, well, are the Braves broken? We're getting to Spencer Schwellenbach and we're up 3-0 in this game. Fool's gold, I guess. Fool's gold. And then it just went right back to the basement of the same Mets we see in Atlanta every single year. And it's unfortunate, to be honest, because it always seems like the Mets bring in these additions to somehow get a one-up on Atlanta, somehow get a one-up on guys in their division, and still they just manage to fail. And it has nothing to do with if they're not good enough or not, because this team is good enough to beat this Braves team. This team is probably good enough to beat any team out there. But it's constantly self-inflicted to themselves. They constantly shoot themselves in the foot. It's them. They're the problem. They're the issue. It's not the fact that this other team is too good or the other team is better than them. No, this team can be a lot better than it is. And they continue to just underperform like this and half-ass it. So, hey, it's whatever. Our good friend Tony Metro in here saying, Mets fans, the pitching lab is responsible for turning no names into studs. Also, Mets fans, Chavez isn't to blame for the offensive woes. Logic isn't logicking some of Mets fans out there. Exactly. Can't have it both ways. So whenever somebody succeeds, we give them credit. When they don't, it's always blame. Don't just blame the wrong thing.
Yeah. They talked about Soto going to the pitching lab to work on his throwing.
He hit 25 bombs under Barnes. And then your great almighty hitting coach, Eric Chavez, told you, hey, that's not good enough.
Yeah.
That's not good enough. So this right now, I mean, this Alvarez, I'm enjoying it, aren't you? Frank,
yeah,
this is great.
Yeah, I mean, go look up where he hit the home runs the year he hit 25. None of them were to the opposite field. And now he strictly hits the ball to the opposite field because he was told to do that by his hitting coach.
Yep.
Go look it up.
But it has nothing to do with the hitting coach.
No.
Nothing. Absolutely nothing. And it also has nothing to do with also the young guys also underperforming, like Beatty or Mauricio or any other prospect that we brought up here that has just completely flopped. Nope, it has nothing to do with it. You can't get to the root of the problem. It's just the fact that, oh yeah, this player sucks. That's it. Toss him out of here. On to the next one. And then the next one will suck. We toss him out of here. Do we see a pattern here? See a pattern? Let's go to the root of the issue. How about that? Alvy's only 2 home runs was his first game back to the opposite field, which is a short field in Nats Park and in Coors Field. I hope you enjoyed it. He has a higher batting average, though, so, this is a great version of Francisco Alvarez that we are seeing. The one that doesn't tap into his actual raw abilities of power. The one who hits for a high average. Yay! Because that's the guy that we brought in when he was... That's the guy that he was scouted to be. Not the guy with the raw power that he has. The light tower power, as Scots would say. It's whatever. He's only 23. He's young. He'll learn. It's okay. Easy, respectfully, you don't watch our show. You're not watching. We've held every player accountable.
Yeah, we're wasting our time here.
You're not
you must have joined in progress because we literally
you
went
must
down
enjoy it in progress,
everybody
or
struggling.
you're just muting so you can spew bullshit. I don't know what to tell you. It's unbelievable what we are seeing constantly of these stretches that we know that this team shouldn't be getting into over and over and over again. These are things that should not have to be said. Everyone that will constantly tell me, oh, well, they're just facing good pitching. Well, you supposedly have good hitters. You supposedly have all these hitters that you're giving all this money to. So shouldn't the good hitters be able to match up well with the good pitchers? Nah. Nope. Just make excuses. Go ahead. Make excuses for why they constantly shoot themselves in the foot. That's all we have to do. Well, this is my team. I got to defend every single piece of garbage that they put out there. There needs to be a problem that needs to be changed. It needs to be changed. There's plenty of problems here. And you can't tell me that this team is perfect because they're 15 games over 500. Because if they lose tonight, guess what, guys? They're going to be out of first place. First place is going to be gone. So what is going to be the excuse then? The record, the team batting average. Pete Alonso is going to participate in the home run derby. Yay! Is that going to be the excuse? Just saying. Running out of time here. Speaking of running out of time or running out of available pieces, the Mets rotation took another hit. And that being Tylor Megill, who was just put on the injured list earlier this week. And here's your full rundown. He has a right elbow sprain. He was placed on the injured list on Tuesday. Megill said that he experienced discomfort after feeling some pulling in his elbow during his start on Sunday, where he ended up giving up 6 runs in about less than 4 innings. The MRI and the further imaging revealed a lot of inflammation around his right elbow, but there is no damage to the ligament and or tendons. He has been shut down from throwing for 7 to 10 days. And Carlos Mendoza let us know, saying that it'll be about 4 to 5 weeks for him to ramp up back and get back into the rotation. So even though Tylor Megill was not pitching well recently, the depth chart does take another hit. You now have Senga, who is most likely out for 4 or 5 weeks. You now have Manaya, who will probably need a few more rehab starts. You have Frankie Montas, who will most likely come back this week. And somebody said it in the chat per Anthony DeComo that Frankie Montas will make his Mets debut on Tuesday against the Braves at Citi Field. So we are aware of that. But he's struggled a lot in these rehab starts that he's had, and he has not looked fantastic. Obviously, we're not taking the results into full account because they said it's all really about how he feels, and that's very true. But it comes to a point where, I'm pretty sure Frankie Montas gave up, I don't know, like 9 home runs and all of these appearances combined. He just has not looked good whatsoever. So Tylor Megill is now on to the injured list. Listen, I'm not going to sit here and say, well, oh, is this injury completely fake and they're giving him a phantom injury because of how bad he is pitching. I'm not going to sit here and accuse him of faking an injury, especially when we're seeing, the MRI. They said there's a lot of inflammation. Is whatever. He obviously has not been throwing the ball well for the last few starts that he's had. I don't want to go after him and say, well, he's making this shit up just because of how bad he is pitching. Obviously, he's been bad recently, like we've said, but the rotation takes another hit. It does. Like we said, Senga, Montas, Manaya, Megill, all of them not on the active roster at this current moment. So Frank, obviously, Megill, like we said, has not been pitching well. But again, they're going to have to dip into the depth of this team, and it's going to be tested. And we will be seeing Blade Tidwell tonight because of it. He will be starting in place of Tylor Megill's rotation spot. We had Blackburn already start in place of Kodai Senga. So this is going to be a rough few weeks where this rotation is going to be depleted, and we're starting to see the effects of it already. But I don't know. This is a rough position that this rotation is in right now, and they're going to have to play it day to day, and they're going to have to try and find some answers until it's fully healthy.
I mean, with pitching, you're going to have injuries. I mean, that just comes with it. We've talked about that many times before. I definitely don't think they're faking any injuries because, like you said, the state of the rotation is now with Senga down, Manaya down, Montas down and struggling. I mean, Griffin Canning is struggling. Paul Blackburn's not very good. They had to call up Justin Hageman to make a start. Now, all of a sudden, Blade has to come back up to make another start. There's no way the Mets felt they were better off without Megill. I mean, because I know Megill has not been good, but the other guys they're bringing in are not better. I mean, that's just straight up. You want as many arms as possible. You don't want to fake anyone going on the injured list. I don't even know how you fake an MRI. If it showed there was inflammation, there was stuff with the nerve and all that stuff, then okay, fine. He's on the shelf for a period of time. It doesn't help that he wasn't good when he was out there, but I mean, still, you don't want to just continuously have this many injuries because, I mean, you're now up to 4 guys. And a lot of times in an ideal world, your starting rotation has 5 guys. Well, you already have 4 on the injury list, at least 3 that were no doubters in the rotation. Megill is kind of, if he could actually show some consistency, he could be in. If he's doing his usual thing, no. But right now, you're literally counting on David Peterson, who almost won the Mets their only game in this stretch of games, the first game of the series where he pitched well, and then they probably pushed him a little too long, and then the rest of the chaos ensued. But overall, they just don't have anything else in the rotation right now. I mean, the Senga injury was a really big one because he was pitching great, and it was like, okay, well, you know what? If a team is in a 6-game losing streak, somewhere in there, you'd be like, okay, well, at least Senga's going to make a start for us, so that's another guy that we feel we have a good chance of winning. With him out of the equation, I mean, you just don't know. I mean, you kind of do know what's going to happen. It's going to be bad. Like, you know that with this many injuries, you're going to end up giving up a lot of runs and use a lot of different arms. And like we just finished on about the way the offense has struggled, you're just going to lose games because if you have an injured pitching staff and guys struggling, the offense is not going to solve it. They're not going to help them out and still able to overcome it. So it's definitely not ideal to have another injury while you're already dealing with multiple, but that's just how it goes with baseball, especially with pitchers. I mean, they are very fragile. That's just the reality of it. And it's just not ideal to have what's going out there right now. Like, listen, I don't want Paul Blackburn to be in the rotation. I don't want Justin Hageman to be in the rotation, but they are because a lot of other guys are hurt. So there are ways to avoid this. You could sign more arms. I mean, that is an option too. Like we talked about, if you think you have enough pitching, you don't. That's just how it goes. Some years you might get lucky enough to use as many as others, but you always should be prepared to have to use a lot of arms. And that's the situation right now. You're seeing basically every day somebody's getting called up and someone's getting sent down. So that's the part of the season they're in. It's almost the halfway mark, so we still have like a whole other second half to do. And someone mentioned before, like Clay Holmes, this is a brand new workload for him. The transition to being a starting pitcher, he really has not looked great. He looked really bad. I mean, last night with all those walks, like that was just very frustrating to watch. And you're seeing a lot of these guys all of a sudden giving up home runs that they weren't before. So there's just a lot of things not going well in the pitching department right now. And the Megill injury definitely does not do them any favors.
I do think that if it does come to a point of you don't get the consistency from Montas, if he comes back, because he's obviously going to be back this week, whatever the deal is with Senga, whatever the deal is with Manaya or whatever, how you determine that. I mean, I think you're going to get to the point where you're going to have to rush some of these young guys up here. And I don't want to do that. Jonah Tong has been performing fantastically in Double-A all year. He's only 22, 21 years old. I think he just turned 22 this week, so happy birthday to him. But Blade Tidwell has struggled at the AAA level, has the high strikeout numbers, but is still giving up a lot of hard contact. Brandon Sproat has been very inconsistent this year. The strikeouts are down. Noel McLean seems to be one of the top guys here, and he's been fantastic in AAA. And people were very upset that he didn't get the start today, which I'm okay with them just give him his innings, let him ramp up, because he was originally a reliever, so he needs to get some innings on his arm before we completely get him to the major league workload here. So I'm not upset about that. I know everyone's wants to say the next man up situation, but I still would continue to give him a little bit of a time in AAA to get his feet wet at that level, and then maybe they consider bringing him up later on this year as a September call-up, around September, or maybe next year we see him in the major leagues. Because, again, I don't want to rush the pitching situation, especially with the resources that they do have to possibly make a trade or possibly sign somebody the way that they could sign somebody, but I don't think there's really anybody available.
I mean, we can't lose a prospect. It's too scary. Can't trade prospects to get more pitchers. That's
it seems like they are willing right now. From what I saw, there was a report on The Athletic today that came up with the pitching staff that's saying the Mets are monitoring the market for center field, like we've talked about center field before, and the bullpen. League sources say speculatively other possible and more expensive targets, such as a frontline starter, may emerge. So it all really has to do with this next month of everything. And they said also the Mets are expected to trade from their pitching prospects. So we'll see if they do make a move.
In Paul Blackburn. So I would be surprised if they went that route again, just like a cheap depth guy. I just don't see them getting an ace, which is so crazy because it's not like we talked about that all offseason long of maybe needing another ace.
I
would have thought.
I'm not really. Pitching is not something that I'm ready to fully invest everything into, because I know it's just going to end up getting hurt anyway. Like it's all really just about as many healthy arms as you do have, and it's not really about who is healthy. Because yes, right now it is hurting, but we all know that at full strength, this pitching staff is a lot better. We know that Kodai Senga is a frontline piece. Sean Manaea was great for us last year, and we know that he will help out the rotation. Montas, who the hell knows at this point? I don't know. Clay Holmes, we'll see how he responds to this workload, because again, that is a little bit up in the air there. But I do think that they just need to put the innings together. Obviously, for somebody to just basically exist, you get to the trade deadline, and if you want to make a move to that starting pitcher, go ahead and make the move. But I'm not here to be completely aggressive and say, well, this guy is a big name, we got to go get this guy. Because it's just I don't know what pitcher is reliable at all, because nobody is anymore.
Well, no. It's more than that, because when they went to this offseason and one of the guys they signed is Griffin Canning, who by all accounts is one of the worst pitcher in the American League. It's like,
yeah,
you could say you don't know who's reliable, but you also could say, I know who's definitely not reliable. So all of a sudden, to see Griffin Canning struggle, I can't say I'm shocked. Like, for Griffin Canning to look like Griffin Canning, like, what were they expecting? Like, I mean, Frankie Montas to be struggling after he struggled last year. How am I supposed to be surprised by that? It's like you say you play Super Games, get Super Prizes. Like, if you sign pitchers who were not good, you can't have all reclamation projects. You can't.
I get what you mean by that.
You cannot.
But it's more
you
of just...
cannot sign Clay Holmes to a multi-year deal as an experiment starter when you have a bunch of experiments as your other acquisitions. We talked about, like, not even a frontline guy. But we talked about Evaldi. We talked about, like, veterans who can stabilize a rotation and are durable, proven durability, proven reliability, not an ace, but just can keep it afloat in the rotation. They did not do that. They went for projects.
And that was what Manaea was supposed to do.
And
that was what Manaea was supposed to do.
But Manaea, we knew, was an injury risk. He said his arm gave out and he changed his delivery. And what happens as soon as spring training starts? Injury. We knew
they need more arms. They don't need the arm. That's the thing. They need more arms. They need actual arms to where it's like, oh, well, Griffin Canning, he starts struggling. You can toss him out and they replace him with somebody else. Like, that's how they need to fix it. It's the quantity to putting these innings together, because you said it yourself. You're like, you're going to have to use so many pitchers. So it's like, you're going to put all your eggs in one basket for one frontline starting pitcher who's going to be so good, and then one day, one little irregular motion from a starting pitcher, he's going to end up getting hurt. Like that's the thing. It's like, if this is why I don't blink an eye at the pitching position when I see Snell go to the Dodgers or see Burns go somewhere else. I mean, because I already know that there's a risk no matter what with a pitcher. So if they see something they like for low cost, that's fine.
Yeah, but the thing is,
it's all about the quantity in this way.
Yeah, but they're allowed to do it because in the Dodgers case, they still have Ohtani and Glass now and Yamamoto and Roki. And then in Diamondbacks case, they have Gallen and Kelly. And, like, you could you could pay for an ace if you already got a really good rotation. The Mets did not have a great rotation to begin with, did not get an ace, did not even get like a 3. Again, I'm not saying go all in for one pitcher, but you needed at least a middle rotation arm who was
Manaea.
Consistent, reliable, durable. Manaea was not. He was a second half amazing story that faded out in the playoffs.
Manaea was great for you last year. That was supposed to be Manaea.
Yeah, but
he got
I'm
hurt.
talking about for a career.
Every pitcher gets hurt.
I'm not talking about a guy who had a good second half of the season. I'm talking about for a career, the guy has been solid. The Mets did not get that guy.
I mean, you had Kodai Senga coming back.
Injury concerns last year again, but you can't rely.
Every pitcher is injured.
Not every pitcher. Some guys are more injured than others.
Rich Hill.
Look it up. You're telling me.
Rich Hill. That's it.
Jacob deGrom, maybe. You're telling me there's not more pitchers that get hurt more frequently than others? Really? How about Freddie Peralta? I've talked about.
There's pretty much every single pitcher gets injured. Literally everyone.
They all get injured, but there's some that get more injured more frequently. And
I'm sure they do.
Okay, but that's
the hat will drop at any point.
Who have significant injury history. That's the guys they look for.
I don't think that they really went after that many. I mean, Montas has a history with the injury history, but I think that he was more of the back end piece. But again, this is the one thing that I constantly just can't stand, like, this constant conversation of, well, they should have went after this guy, they should have went after that guy. What exactly are they going to give you besides what we expect here of, oh, they're going to give me the consistency? They're just going to get hurt. They'll just get hurt because they always do. That's the thing. Like, yes, you have a few guys that could possibly be available. Nathan Evaldi is someone we've talked about before. We've talked about Nick Pivetta before, who's thrown a lot of innings. He's been very good. Like, guys that you can bring in on these short-term deals, but there's nothing of consistency where you're like, oh, well, this is our guy. This is it. This is our number one. It's a committee now. This is what pitching is. It's, hey, you got an arm? You got arms? Cool. Go out there. That's it, because you can't rely on anything else. Because yes, when the Dodgers do it, they have the resources in order to back it up. They have the depth in order to back it up. What is the depth that the Mets have right now? Nothing. They don't have a 7,000 Gavin Stones, or they don't have all these other guys to bring up from the minors, because they don't have it yet. So that's the thing. It's like that they need to put things together on the fly. And when they need so many spots filled in, I mean, what is there? There's nothing that they can do to keep up with it, because the guys are just going to end up getting hurt. Like that's it. Jack Flaherty, Eflin, Eovaldi. Flaherty has had injury history. Eflin has been in and out of the bullpen as well. Eovaldi is probably the most efficient one out there. Maybe he didn't want to come to the Mets. I don't know.
He's even currently on the injury list too, and they gave him a 3-year deal. So listen, Quintana, he's been healthy and good, and he was a Met. Yeah. I mean, he's old, but still.
And what happened when he was here with the Mets? He had plenty of injuries. He was great in the playoffs, but he had plenty of injuries too. Like that's the thing. I can't sit here and say, well, this guy is an Iron Man. No one's an Iron Man anymore. No one is. And that obviously is the overall high pressure. And also a pitcher coming in here in these high pressure situations, like we already said, with the offense doing absolutely nothing, they're going to hurt themselves. I'm really scared for Clay Holmes, to be honest. I am, because of this workload and the fact that he needs to work in these tight spaces every single time, like we did last night.
I know, but it's like, don't you know that? I mean, because that's what I'm saying. But you knew it was a risk, though. You know that
we knew that it was a risk.
Starter's a risk.
Yeah,
automatically.
But any starter is a risk in any fashion.
I know, but
whether it's health, consistency,
is more risk than a guy who's used to being a starter.
I mean, we've seen relievers convert to starters before.
The only times it works out when the guy wasn't at, like Seth Lugo, who went reliever to starter. Those guys are very few and far between.
I understand that you have a lot of, rare cases, or you have all these, but it's like, you got to find it any way that you can really find it. And like that's the problem that I have with this whole thing of, well, he's a good pitcher, go and get him. It's not going to work out in your face. It's not going to. It's full on guarantee. I mean, if you're looking at the frontline guys or looking at the reliable guys, they all get injured, all of them. And you're going to be in the same situation that you're in right now, where you have four pitchers on the injured list. And this is why I say the job of the pitcher now is just to get injured. That's it. Exist and get injured. It's the life. That's it. You can't commit to anybody at all. And that's the thing. It's all really just about the system that they go into. And I also get very, very flustered when I hear that, because again, I end up think that these guys are going to end up getting hurt as well. Like I do think that, especially when you go into a franchise that gives you so much premium offense and gives you so much of these situations where you can't cut tight corners at all because the offense can't get going for 7 straight innings. I feel like, yeah, this would be a good addition on paper, but when you see it visually, it's not going to be all smooth sailing like you see it. I don't have the patience to say, well, let's build a super rotation and this is going to be great because we have unlimited money and we have a monopoly money because of Steve Cohen. It's not going to sustain that way. It just won't. You're going to be in the same situation that you're in right now with Frankie Montas that you are with somebody like Corbin Burns, who was available, who in the first year of his 7-year contract he signed with Arizona needs Tommy John surgery. And it has nothing to do with being right of who should be here and who should be not, but arms are arms. Like it's looked at so differently from me now, especially from what it was, I don't know, even 5 years ago. I don't know how in any point you can ever have a reliable rotation or a consistent rotation of 5 guys that make you give you 30 starts. It's never going to happen. It never will happen. And if it does, it's a godsend and it'll never happen again. Like that's my take on it. Ricardo saying, can we all agree that Montas was the wrong signing? We don't know if it's the wrong signing. It ain't looking good. It's not looking good. We don't know if it's the wrong signing yet, but we will see. And people were, obviously the comparison to Frankie Montas was the Luis Severino contract of like, they gave him less than this and they offered similar to Montas and they ended up going with Montas. They ended up offering the same thing to Luis Severino, who wanted to come back. But what were people saying about Luis Severino? Oh, I know he's got a 6.7 ERA last year. He's terrible. How the turntables, you know what I mean? Like, again, it's all really just about
I know, but
finding the
Severino,
lightning. That's it.
Yes, so Severino had the injury history, to your point. Made it through the season healthy for the Mets, and then they chose Montas instead because they saved a few $1 million. Severino's not been great, but at least he's been on the mound. So
he has been on the mound. And to be honest, I would say that the fact that he's playing in a minor league ballpark is not helping him. I'm pretty sure the splits between
and they're also
home and away,
heavy workload too, like high pitch counts.
Well, that's just the A's just riding guys into the ground. But
exactly, and you talk about like going into certain organizations, development. Like, I mean, that's a real unfortunate situation to go into. I mean, the A's are so bad that the Mets continuously, and Frankie Montas is a perfect example of this, get A's. I mean, like fully healthy. You have Mania, Montas, Blackburn. We had Bassett. Like you have like a bunch of Oakland A's on this team. Like they're just so bad. They're like, you know what? Just get them out of there, and we'll put a much better position. It's
Luis
crazy.
Severino at home this year has a 6.79 earned run average in 57 innings. On the road, he has a 0.93 earned run average on the road in 38.2 innings. So yeah, that's quite a discrepancy there. And if you were to like bring him in on a buy low,
where you can't hit.
Yeah. If you were to bring in him on a buy low, I wouldn't be opposed to that as a possible deadline acquisition, because he could anchor the rotation the way that, like you were saying, the Evaldi or whatever, if he stays healthy. Yeah, the Mets offered Sevy the same deal. That's the thing. It's more of just not really riding the wave and just letting things go of capacity is what we're saying. It's the same thing of what we said with, Jose Iglesias. Like, yeah, he was fantastic for us. He was one of the key pieces to the team, but how long is this going to stick up? Like how long is this going to continue?
Yeah, but there's a guy who's 36 and was not out of baseball the previous year than a guy who's 30 and was durable through the whole season. Like, it's two totally different situations.
But he also wasn't durable for the last 5 years before then.
That's true. But again, I talk about there's difference between recent health and previous health. Like if you're healthy now,
I get you.
That's more valuable to me than you were healthy 3 years ago. Like what does that do for me today? It's a very what have you done
exactly.
For me now?
It's all about what can you spark and what can you expect now. And I think that's what David Stearns has really done a good job with. I mean, when you look at those 4 years before he came over to the Mets.
Oh,
he was never on the mound ever. Like he was never on the mound, Severino. And he also had a really rough stretch overall in production too.
But the Mets also had a different approach. They went for guys who were healthy in the past, had great passes. I mean, look at Scherzer, Verlander. Like these guys, it's like, oh wow, these guys are going to the Hall of Fame. It's not because of what they're doing now. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like it's a totally different approach that they've taken.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a better approach because it's like you said, that quantity over quality, which in general, when it comes to pitching, I agree with, but still, I feel like there's certain things with if a guy was
I get what you mean
in the league last year, like I probably would avoid that one and maybe look elsewhere. And again, we're talking about pitching labs. If a guy went to Milwaukee and was struggling, what makes me think that I could fix him? Like if Milwaukee can't fix you, you're pretty bad. So, and he struggled in New York before. Like there's certain red flags when you're looking at players that you're like, maybe I should look at something else.
I get it.
I
100% get it.
Yeah.
I 100% get it, obviously. And the Montas deal was a little bit of a stretch. I think if it was about like if he was healthy, if again, this is a big if he was healthy, then we probably would be talking about it in a different light. But the fact that we haven't seen him hit the mound yet and all we're hearing is bad things is probably the reason why it's being perceived so badly. I'm willing to give it a chance first. I'm not expecting him to do great, to be honest. I'm not liking what I'm seeing, but we will see how that context forms out with the rotation. But they're definitely in quite a crunch right now, and it's going to be rough because they're not just going to go on the fly.
Yeah. The thing is, though, is that like this is the stuff that drives me nuts. If you actually had to give up a decent package to get Severino back, when you could that's the thing that drives me nuts the most. Is when it's a guy in the offseason that makes a lot of sense for you, you don't sign him, and then you have because you didn't want that contract, then you still have to take that contract, but also give up young pieces in the process. So you get beat up both the times. Which this is actually a weird question. I'm just curious. We don't even know the answer to this, but. He didn't get the qualifying. He didn't take the qualifying offer. So Mets got the draft pick compensation. If they traded for him, do they still get the draft pick because he's like back on the team?
I think they would.
That's a weird one.
Yeah. If they trade for him, which to be honest, I would be opposed to. Obviously, giving up those assets, but we're also seeing these young assets. It's like they're not everything. Like they're not everything. And if you're going for it, you're going for the World Series. You just gave $800 million to Juan Soto. If it costs,
who does not pitch?
Who does not pitch? If it does cost a Jet Williams to make a move, which obviously we can't do because he is the next Jose Altuve, but we can't stop ourselves from that. I think that this year, if they're in that position, they're going to be a little bit less hesitant to deal these young guys because of how Stearns has kind of learned what's going on in this organization of seeing, hey, we can't develop hitters at all. So I think that that's also going to be come into an impression. He's a lifelong
Mets fan. He should know that we're a pitching franchise, a legend.
I don't know. Maybe he was focused on getting the Brewers from a bottom five payroll. I don't know.
Who also had no hitting development either. But anyway,
I don't know. But maybe he's a. Yeah, maybe he's a Braves double agent. Ooh. Because Milwaukee Braves.
Oh yes.
Anyways,
yep, I could see it.
Now, speaking of injuries, obviously we have some stuff to go over. We've got 6 guys on this list. Last week it was 8 actually, so I had to go through a lot. But we've narrowed it down to 6 of the latest that has been going on. Frank, the injury report is yours.
The injury book. Yeah.
The injury book. The injury seance. Yes. All right. Injury report with Unk, as we say.
Okay, here we go. Right. This is a lot of players to get through. Sean Manaea, Mets starting pitcher, made his 4th rehab appearance tonight for AAA Syracuse. He tossed 5 in Thursday. He's giving up 2 hits, 1 run, no walks, 7 strikeouts on 62 pitches. The 33-year-old southpaw is expected to make multiple rehab appearances for AAA before making his long-awaited return to the Mets rotation. Manaea has been on the injury list since the beginning of spring training due to a right oblique strain he suffered during the first week. Frankie Montas, Mets starting pitcher, completed his final rehab start for AAA Syracuse on Wednesday, tossing 5 innings, 7 hits, 5 runs, 1 walk, 2 strikeouts on 80 pitches. With the 32-year-old right-hander's 30-day rehab window expiring on Sunday, the Mets are expected to activate Montas later this week to make his 2025 debut against the Braves. Montas has been sidelined since the beginning of March due to a right lat strain. Max Kranick, Mets reliever, has been placed on the 15-day injury list due to a right elbow strain. As he awaits the MRI results back in New York, Kranick last pitched out of the Mets bullpen on Sunday against the Rays and has been unavailable since, to where he initially experienced the discomfort the next day. Brooks Raley, Mets reliever, made his first rehab appearance for Low A Port St. Lucie on Tuesday, tossing a scoreless inning with 2 strikeouts. The 36-year-old left-hander is expected to use the full 30-day rehab assignment window to ramp up as he continues to recover from Tommy John surgery that included an internal brace procedure on his left elbow back in April of last year. Brett Beatty, Mets infielder, has avoided the injury list, showing improvement, and he is in the starting lineup tonight.
Yes.
That definitely is good. He had the groin tightness. He missed the whole Atlanta series, but he's back on track. Mark Vientos, he began his rehab assignment for AAA Syracuse over the past week. The 25-year-old slugger is expected to play a handful of games before making his return to the Mets lineup. Vientos is currently on the injured list due to a right hamstring strain that he suffered while sprinting down the first base line a few weeks ago in Los Angeles. Vientos, he had a nice hit today, and that game, he cleared the bases.
3-run double.
He is hopefully going to be here Monday for that Braves series. And then for Montas, the expectation is that he should pitch Tuesday in that Braves series. So a lot of guys on here, a lot of them are back or almost back. At least Manaea is pitching. I mean, he had his setback. So they're slowly but surely getting there. But hopefully once they get here, they stay here. And this might be asking a little too much, but hopefully they play good too. That would be really nice.
Would be sick. Yeah. I want to see this team at full strength before I completely hit the panic button. Obviously, they've lost 6 in a row, and it's not great, but I do want to see them all be here fully healthy first, or at least somewhat healthy, before I completely panic and say that this team is going all haywire and this is a June swoon and the season is over before, over before the All-Star break, which is in a few weeks, obviously. But again, there is one guy that I do want to discuss before we get into the full rundown into the next series and everything, and that is Brandon Nimmo. I want to talk a little bit about what has been going on with him, because we have had quite a journey with him over this past calendar year. Let's just say that. He started off a little bit slow last year in 2024, started to pick up in May, June, and then the second half was really rough for him last year, and he was definitely grimacing through, that's just awful, grimacing through plantar fasciitis in his right foot. Which obviously is a very painful injury. He ended up getting the PRP cortisone shot in the offseason, recovered from that, and then also had some lower body issues as well during spring training, which is something that we've seen accustomed with Brandon Nimmo. But we've also seen some changes here in this coming June, and with this larger sample that we have coming into this month of June, even though the Mets offense hasn't been amazing, Brandon Nimmo has definitely produced a lot better than we have seen recently. And that has to do a lot more with this one change that has been made, and that has been moving him to the 2-hole in the lineup. Now, as for the overall production that we have seen from Brandon Nimmo by month, obviously he started off 79 OPS plus, an 85 weighted runs created plus to start off the year from March to April. 107 bat in May, so a little bit better, but still not himself. You look at it from what we have seen in June, he is slashing 270, 343, 492, a 134 OPS plus, a 138 weighted runs created plus. And you also see in that final column, win probability added. Win probability added is a stat that is used as for play-by-play. So for those of you who like to identify moments and like to identify the highlights of their careers, it's one of the biggest that are calculated in that way with win probability added. And if you see in June, he is plus 0.17 in win probability added, as compared to in May, negative 0.59 in May, and negative 0.87 in May. So it's overall contributing to the Mets' victories and putting them in a position to win on play-by-play with appearances, overall defense, all these plays that involve Brandon Nimmo. If you're like Frank, who enjoys the moment, wants to live in the moment, that is a really good way to identify the contributions that a player has to the team play-by-play. Now, splitting it up in the batting order, like we have said, him batting second, he has a 184 weighted runs created plus. He has a .54, which is a positive WPA, win probability added. He is slashing 339, 409, 593. Like we have said, he is walking a little bit more, striking out a little bit less in that 2-hole. And then compared to everything else, which the smallest sample size, he also has done okay, batting 6th, but it's a very small sample size of 23 plate appearances. Batting 4th, he's been terrible. Batting 5th, he has been terrible. And when we talk about WPA and we talk about win probability added, this is something that's very uncharacteristic with Brandon Nimmo, because since 2018 and since his debut, he is one of the highest. He is like 25th in the league since then in win probability added among all players, all active players in the major leagues. So this was very uncharacteristic for him to not be in the midst of the winning ways of the New York Mets. So that was the main reason as to why we saw a Brandon Nimmo that we're not familiar with and we were very concerned with. But it seems like he's kind of settled in. It hasn't been as big standout-ish from somebody you expect from the 2-out hole. Like, we're still seeing a little bit here, a little bit there, but we're also seeing a Brandon Nimmo that is producing at the level we know he's capable of. I know a lot of people have talked about him going into a 32-year-old season and declaring his entire career over. But Brandon Nimmo's looked a lot better, especially compared to the last calendar year where he's definitely struggled and has not been himself. So, Frank, obviously, we've talked about Brandon Nimmo, the placement in the order, the type of approach that he has that's a lot different. Obviously, it has been a rough road for him, but it seems like he's starting to find his place again, where we're seeing the balance of Brandon Nimmo again, and he's starting to produce again, which is definitely good for a team that is not has been very inconsistent this year. So Nimmo's been good, can be a little bit better, but what are you seeing from Brandon Nimmo that just looks a lot better compared to what we were seeing from the beginning of the season?
He just looks more comfortable because it's what he's used to. I mean, this is a guy that was a leadoff hitter for several years, and he was really good as a leadoff hitter. I mean, he was a guy that was always near the top in on-base percentage because of his ability to draw walks, work counts, fight off tough pitches, be very disciplined, not overly aggressive, and he had very good results out of that. But because of the way this current Mets lineup is constructed, they didn't want him to be at the top half of the order anymore. They wanted to be in the middle of the order. And this is kind of what I talked about earlier as far as like trying to maximize my players, get the most out of them, embrace their strengths. The Mets did the opposite with Nimmo. Like, you had this really good top of the order table setter bat, and you turned him into not a table setter, and he struggled with it. So they were just trying to accommodate the other players by putting Nimmo in a position where he's not used to being and just overall not very comfortable and not what he's best suited for. So his approach was very different. He had a lot of opportunities with men on base, a little too aggressive. I mean, generally speaking, that's different than a lot of the guys on this team because it's like runs aren't going to drive in themselves. Like, you do have to swing the bat to bring them home. So I liked that aspect of it, but it's just not Nimmo's game. His game is more so, like I said, work the count, getting on base, and just, swing at good pitches and then do damage. He's pulling the ball more. He's hitting the ball harder. He's on pace for a career high in home runs. I hope he reaches the 30 plateau. We'll see if he does. But overall, he just looks a lot better than he did second half of last year, playoffs, and beginning of this year. So he's done well in the 2-hole. However, the Mets have used him at the 2-hole when they're facing a right-handed pitcher and had him bat 6th when they're facing a left-handed pitcher. And that graphic that you showed, 6 has been the only other spot in the order he's had success in this season so far, because he struggled at 4, he struggled at 5. 6, he's been all right in a very small sample size, so I'm curious to see how that goes. I understand the line of thinking, and when he's in the 6-hole, Marte's in the 2-hole. Ideally, if Vientos could get anywhere close to what he was last year, where he was really good in the 2-hole in the playoffs, if you have Vientos at batting second against lefties, and then you have Nimmo batting second against righties, and you have like Vientos 6th when Nimmo's batting second, like that could make for a good lineup if everyone's clicking. That has not happened yet, but it's something that might work down the road, hopefully. But overall, I'm just glad that they made the adjustment. They moved Soto down to 3, which we didn't know if they were going to do. And to be honest, Soto's kind of been a little better at 3 than he was at 2.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like this massive thing, because that was the argument. It was just like, oh, you can't move Lindor for leadoff, and you can't move Soto off of 2, and you can't move Alonso over 3. It was like all these rules that you couldn't do.
Yeah.
But to me, like, the guy who's getting paid $800 million should be able to bat anywhere in the order. He should not be strictly a number 2 hitter. Meanwhile, the guy who was paid to be the leadoff hitter and is getting paid like an eighth of the amount, that's okay. Like, he can bat to the top half of the order if that's what suits him. So I'm glad that they made the adjustment and it's paying off, because man, did they need it. With how much this offense has struggled, they need another guy to step up. Nimmo's been pretty good, but unfortunately still hasn't been enough, because you're still seeing these goose eggs and these one-run games. So it's like, even moving Nimmo to 2, it improves some things, but overall this offense still has a lot more things that need to be improved too.
It hasn't been shown as much this year, which makes it so confusing to me. It's probably the reason as to why they're doing it, but the fact that they keep moving him out of the 2 spot when they're facing a lefty, because obviously Marte needs to face lefties. It's a must. He needs to face lefties more than anyone ever. But with Nimmo, I mean, this guy hits left-handed pitching. Well, sometimes he hits it better than right-handed pitching.
Yeah, his splits are not drastic. So
they're not drastic. This year he hasn't really hit lefties as well, but for his career, he's better against lefties. Like, it's not drastic, but he's been better against lefties. Maybe in the power department. No, the power department, he's better against righties.
But he's much better against righties for the power.
Yeah, the contact is a little bit more against the lefties. So I think that it just suits very well to have him at 2. And I know a lot of people see him as, you know, a bottom part of the order right now. But it's like, the thing with Nimmo is that you need him to be an offensive catalyst and not be an overall offensive producer, and that's what they had him in the cleanup. Like, that's not a cleanup hitter. Like, that he isn't a cleanup hitter, never was, shouldn't be ever. So again, even though he is one of the best, he has been one of the best situational hitters on this team, hasn't been this year, but overall with the production we know he is capable of, with how hard he is hitting the ball, with how great the batted ball data has been from him recently, and it continues to improve, you can't just tell me, oh, well, we're out of here because his numbers are dipping down. Put him in a position where he can actually utilize those tools and maximize it, like you just said. And Ricardo, listen, you're saying that let's be real, that Nimmo is an average player at best. Listen, if you want to fight, we can fight. We can go out. We can go outside. We can throw hands. That's just Nimmo's my guy, so I'll defend him to the end of the time. But again, I think in a position where he does not succeed with the type of hitter that he is, he probably is an average player. He probably is. But if you were to have him batting second, he's definitely going to produce, and I think it's going to be a little bit more showing once you actually have the big hitters around him doing well as well. And I hope we also get some more stolen bases, because it looks like the foot is healing a little bit, because he's running more. He is. I don't know if he's great. Yeah, he stole third, which is quite a risk. Very, very rare. And I know that the base running has been surprisingly better recently. It actually has, because he used to be not great at it. But
I mean, I still
we
think
see a
that
little
stolen
more
base
steals,
today was only like his 6th of the season still, though, which, I mean, for someone, he doesn't have the speed he used to, but still, for the speed that he does have, you would hope there'd be
I'm
more,
okay with,
but
because of what I know about him right now, and that's the fact that he's coming off of a plantar fasciitis injury.
Exactly. He's had an injury history. It's been risky. So
yeah, it has been, which is fine. But if that fit's starting to heal, and if he feels better, that's great. Seems like he's in a really good position right now. And again, they're still, I don't know. I think the clutch gene is starting to wear off a little bit with him. Like, I don't know. I'm getting a little concerned here. But I think that he'll eventually get to that point where he's, doing what he needs to do. But hopefully, I think that he's a part of the lineup that definitely had some question come to it for a while. Obviously, the power numbers going down the way that they did last year. Seems like the OBP is starting to percolate a little bit, as Clyde Frazier would say. But again, it's really all just about these certain situations. But also, we got to get Lindor going as well in front of him too. So that's basically all that it works, because if Lindor gets on to lead off the game, he can take second, obviously, and then you have, which again, he's got the toe, but then you have 3 opportunities with runners in scoring position with your best hitters. So that's one of the things that they need to set up there. And they really haven't been getting that from Francisco Lindor. So Francisco Lindor has to start to step up here. Who knows if it is the toe injury that is bothering him? Probably is. Who knows?
Are you holding a player accountable? What are you doing? Oh, no. Okay.
No.
All right,
no.
I didn't think so.
Yeah. Speaking of holding a player accountable, by the way, because this just came up to the top of my timeline. Did you see what happened with Dennis Santana yesterday?
I did. Yeah. He went for like a Street Fighter move, a jumping punch. That was.
Well, he's been suspended 4 games. So
that's it?
Yeah.
Wow.
So he's been suspended 4 games. But no, he was ready to fight. I don't know if you guys saw that. That was wild. It was all over Twitter last night. So former Met right there. That's a legend. Salute to you. But either way, as we transition into everybody's favorite segment known as Studs and Duds, one player in this series that was great, want to give flowers to, one that was not so great. I know we have plenty that were not so great because we just got swept for a 6th loss in a row. Whoopee. Anyways, stud, Frank, I will swing it over to you for your stud in this series.
Jeez, I mean, it really is tough to pick one with how bad the series was. I mean, getting, like I said, basically blown out these last 2 games. I mean, it's hard to really say that anyone played all that great. I'll give it to Tyrone Taylor only because he was a big key in the one game that they almost did win, where he hit the home run. He drove in 3 runs. And it kind of gets not noticed, but he made a really nice catch at the end of the game for the sacrifice fly on a play he probably should have gave up on, but he did end up making a nice catch at the wall. But he did it from that 9 hole. And I talked about it in the post game, but it's like you have Jared Young in that 6 hole going 0-4 with 3 strikeouts. It's like, really? You think Taylor can't do a little better than that? So, but they still did it again tonight. So they haven't really learned anything yet, but we'll see.
I don't know if that's just the way that it's really being designed or whatever, but who knows? I was also going to pick Taylor and put him out there. He seemed like the only guy that showed up for this entire series. He seemed like the only guy that was contributing. That's something we see from Tyrone Taylor every single night, though. That's what he does. And it stinks. And we call him a hoopus for a reason. He's a hooper. That's what he is. He's the hooper. But I also can put Justin Garza in there because I think he was in last, my last stud actually for last episode. But I've liked what I've seen so far. He just seems to work very, very quick, which I do like it. I like the sequencing. I think he's got a crisp fastball as well. So maybe he's somebody who can help you, down the line is another arm that can help you. If this continues to, if he continues to have a good start here, to his Mets tenure, then we'll do a little bit more of a deep dive on him because he definitely is a interesting, very intriguing arm that I think can be very, very useful for this team in certain situations. Obviously, I don't want to burn him out, but it's whatever. Duds, there were plenty. Frank, back to you.
Yeah, I mean, it stinks because overall this guy's had a good season, but I mean, for this series particular, Brazaban was just not very good. And like we said, there could be some overworking. I mean, the fact the game went extras, anytime Brazaban works in extra innings, it's because it's a game he was not supposed to pitch in to begin with, because if he was, he would have been in already. So he probably wasn't supposed to be out there. He walks some batters, but then because of just all the craziness that's been going on with this pitching staff, he comes in again yesterday, walks more batters. So that really is just not what you want to see, especially because that's something he had gotten a lot better at this season. Why he was having so much success, he wasn't walking batters. But you see that, I mean, when you walk, we know when you walk guys, it just makes your life so much more difficult. And it made life difficult for the Mets this series. So, I mean, he had both outings were just total stinkers. And they both were very impactful in big parts of the game. One being extra innings, so obviously it's very tight. But there, it's like you bring him in with Clay Holmes. The game's not totally out of reach yet, but by the time Brosman was done, it was out of reach.
Yeah. I've got a dud duo here, and it goes to the two that were behind the plate. Francisco Alvarez, Luis Torrens. Both of them, awful, all series long. Alvarez, that whole play in the first game, the decision-making of throwing to second behind the runner, what the fuck was that? The blocking has been terrible from him. And then Luis Torrens, the trying to pick the ball up with his mask and that inducing a balk. I didn't know that was a balk. I knew that you can't pick it up with your
no
mask.
One should be doing that. No one would ever think to pick up a ball using a catcher's mask.
I don't know. I have no idea. I always thought that it was like not allowed. I always thought that it was not allowed, but I didn't know that was a balk. So yeah, again. And then just behind the plate with the overall blocking, we know that the arm value has been noticeable, and that has definitely saved them from a lot of base runners advancing. But the blocking, obviously, with them down on one knee, it's always going to be a challenge. I don't know how that ever is going to be an issue. Also, I would like just for my pitchers to throw strikes. That would be a way to avoid that as well. Which they did not at all this series. So, like Francisco Alvarez, again, I do agree that he needs to go down to AAA, obviously. But Torrens didn't help either. So, again, both of them were just really, really bad in this series. And then you also, I also want to point out Juan Soto for the awful base running that we saw in that first game. I know he got his 1,000th hit and he hit the vote. What are you doing, man? What? Pay attention, please. Head out of ass, please. Like, what was that? That happened twice in that game. The base running blunder, he's just standing there, taking a big lead.
Yep.
And then in the ninth inning, with Pete Alonso up there, running us out of the inning. Those types of mental mistakes, like we have said, you can't continue to make those and say, well, we're going to be fine because of our win-loss record. You're going to lose games because of it.
Is that, I guess because it's, I want to say, maybe because it's Soto, like there was no one talking to him about like how massive a mental mistake it is. But it's more so we're talking about accountability and managing and coaching. The fact that you keep seeing like the same problems happen over and over, no one's being held accountable because they just keep doing like things you've never seen before, like these little league plays. It happens all the time.
Yeah. I think that there does need to be a point of holding everyone accountable, and maybe there is some kind of reset they got to make on something.
Well, listen,
I don't think it's coming anytime soon.
But also that can happen when you have the only veteran player you have is known for always making silly mistakes. And Starling Marte, he's like the one veteran on this team who always makes dumb plays. So there's no other veteran that's there to, teach him how to play the game the right way or hold people accountable or saying, listen, I won a championship in my career. That's not how things are done. Like that guy is not in that locker room.
Yeah. And even when we do end up getting those guys, some of them are just a complete disappointment in the leadership department. Max Scherzer comes to mind. That comes to mind of the guy who will blame everybody else but himself. So I don't know what to say. Someone's got to lead by example in there, and we'll definitely get more deep into that if this team starts to falter, to different levels, because obviously they have 15 games after 500. So don't worry. So again, there's plenty of things that we would obviously get into with this entirety of this team of keeping the vibes going. But hey, meet Excuse Man. But hey, it's whatever. Anyways, I do want to move on to the series that is actually just about to start in like 20 minutes. And that being the Mets versus Phillies, which seems to be a battle for first place now, with the Mets playing like absolute shit this past week. They have lost an entire 5.5 game lead in the division, and now they are tied with 45 and 30 with the Phillies. Both have the same records. The Phillies have been playing better baseball. So now this becomes an important momentum shift going into this final stretch to the All-Star break. So let's get into these pitching probables for the Mets versus the Phillies. As we all know, with the injuries to the rotation, taking in the place of Tylor Megill, in a little bit, we will have Mets pitching prospect Blade Tidwell hoping to have a way better outing than he had in his major league debut, and he'll face our old friend Zach Wheeler. First pitch is tonight at 7:15 p.m. Eastern Time on everyone's favorite network, Apple TV. Game 2 will be Griffin Canning looking to bounce back from a horrific start that he had against Tampa last week. He'll face young right-hander Mick Abel, who's one of their top prospects. First pitch is tomorrow night at 7:15 p.m. Eastern Time on Fox. So we'll get to listen to John Smoltz, possibly, or maybe Adam Wainwright, two of our favorite people as Mets fans. And in Game 3, the series finale, will go to the workhorse of this squad right now, David Peterson, hoping to keep adding on to his remarkable start to the 2025 season. And he'll face the suddenly struggling left-hander, Jesus Luzardo. First pitch is Sunday night, and you guessed it, at 7:10 Eastern Time on ESPN for Sunday Night Baseball. So no Gary, Keith, and Ron for this entire series, which kind of sucks. But who knows? I don't think the network has anything to do with this team playing well or not. But going into this series, proper English, this Phillies team has had some ups and downs this year. We know they have. Kyle Schwarber is on a tear. I know he is. I think he's the only guy in that lineup that has like 15 plus home runs out of any of them. And it's definitely been weird with what has been going on with the Phillies, but right now they have a little bit of the upper hand, tying us for first place in the division. So definitely some stuff to look out for. One thing I will point out here is I do think that Blade Tidwell, Philly is actually a really good matchup for him, but he's going to have to throw a lot more strikes. He's going to have to throw way more strikes than he did in St. Louis a few weeks ago for his major league debut. So I do think it is a good matchup for him, and you know, he could contribute and could give us a solid outing. But again, adjustments are going to have to be made because I do know he's got the stuff to punch out these hitters, but it's all really just about the execution. Like we have said, hopefully he learns from that experience that he had in St. Louis a few weeks ago, where his major league debut did not go well. So other things to point out, obviously, Frank, you can get onto this. Mets versus Phillies, a fight for first place now because the Mets dug their own grave the last week.
Yeah, so Bryce Harper is currently on the injured list, so I mean,
Yes.
that definitely is a big thing. They've moved Alec Boehm to first place to take his spot, and that allowed them to get Edmundo Sosa in there full time. So that's something to watch for sure. Last time the Mets played the Phillies, we talked about how they shifted their order a little bit. They had moved Bryson Stott to lead off, took Schwarber out of the spot. Bryson Stott is no longer hitting leadoff. Instead, it's Trey Turner, who's now doing much better, and Schwarber batting second. So they're still kind of tinkering with that line to get the most out of it. Nick Castellanos had some weird comments going on with late game defensive replacements and making catches at the wall. So he's always just an interesting character to begin with. So it's allowed, guys like Max Kepler to now play a little more with the Harper injury and things like that. So, I mean, with this Phillies team, I mean, we kind of know what to expect. I mean, we've played them in the playoffs last year. We played them a ton last year from the regular season. They haven't changed their team all that much. However, the pitching matchups this time around are much tougher. I mean, you're facing Luzardo, who he's been struggling lately. He got off to a great start this season. The FIP is still way below the ERA. Conversely, you mentioned the young right-hander, at least Mick Abel, total opposite. Like, he's a guy that gives you a good ERA, but not a good FIP. Meanwhile, Zach Wheeler, we know every time he's against the Mets, it's a big struggle. So this Phillies team, we know they have talent. We know the Mets can match up well with them. It's going to be tight, but I mean, hopefully the pitching just doesn't totally fall apart like the way it has lately, because if it does, they're not going to be able to do it. I mean, it's one of those games, it's a series where because of how good the Phillies pitching is, the Mets pitching needs to at least keep them in the game, because if they don't, this offense, I don't see them scoring a ton of runs against the Phillies. I mean, it's in Citizens Bank. That helps, but the Mets have a below 500 record on the road. So, I mean, there's a lot of different factors going on here.
All right, well, our homegrown guys, the guys that've been here forever and you can never get mad at. I'm looking to all of you because y'all have great careers against
the core four?
Zach Wheeler. The
core four. The core three because
because the other guy got the shoulder surgery and Frank ruined his entire career. But no, Pete Alonso, he had a great career against Zach Wheeler. Brandon Nimmo has been even better. We'll see what happens if Brett Beatty can build on what he did before he was sent down after that mammoth of a home run that he hit against him at Citi Field. I also know that Starling Marte is not in the lineup. Somebody else that hits him well in this lineup that I'm missing. As Soto? I don't know if Soto.
I mean, it could be Soto.
It's probably Winker. That's probably who I'm thinking of.
Winker sounds like a possibility. But yeah, Soto faced him a lot. I mean, he was a national, so yes. I mean, Soto had plenty of at-bats.
He has a good career against him. 13 for 48 against him. I think I'm thinking of Winker. That's who I'm thinking of. And
Winker is not here and not even on the injury report, so don't expect him to go. Yeah, they said you have Jared Young.
Winker's MIA.
Yeah, I mean,
Winker is MIA right now, so we'll see how long it takes for that. If I had to make a prediction, I'd say Winker would be back a few weeks after the All-Star break. If I'm tensing some things, it's going to be a while. So we'll see how they make that decision. We'll see with that. But this Phillies team, we know what their weaknesses are. We know what their strengths are. In the overall offense, they can be inconsistent just like us. But again, it's all really just about neutralizing the play. We know that the only way to get to Zach Wheeler is to get to him early. You have to get to him early the first time through the order because he gets better throughout the entirety of the game. That's the main reason as to why he goes deep into games all the time. We saw some news about him. It looks like he's planning to retire after the 2027 season. So, I mean, he still is at the top of his game. So that's definitely a choice to go on out. But, if he wants to end his career as a Philly,
that's okay.
That's fine.
Go out on a high note.
All right.
That's fine.
As a division rival, I completely support it.
Yes.
And as a Mets fan, I'm sorry that we let you go. I 100% apologize for our dumbass sports agent of a GM who was always the smartest guy in the room and wasn't. And we're still paying the price for some of these pieces that he's brought in. Anyways, other things to look out for, other notes that I had here. There was one thing that I had bookmarked that I did not... John Heyman obviously talking about the starting pitching, like we've said, that we've gotten into that already. Our top prospect, Carson Bench, has been selected to participate in the futures game and our All-Star weekend. So congratulations to him. He's been tearing the cover off the ball in Brooklyn, which is not a great hitter's environment. So we'll see what happens there. He was our first round pick last year. I'm not related to him, by the way, just letting everybody know. And then there was one other thing. Daniel Nunez is back, by the way.
Yes,
he was
hopefully doesn't walk the ballpark.
Hopefully he does not walk for the ballpark. Hopefully he has been a little bit more refined in AAA recently. I think he's been pitching a lot better since he was brought back down. But he would be a big part to this bullpen, obviously. Definitely can use the good Daniel Nunez. Let's see. I'm just going to let everyone know of what we saw since he was sent down. Let's just make sure everything's here. Since he was sent down. Okay. So since he was sent down, he has surrendered only 2 runs in 8 appearances. So that's not bad. It's not awful. No home runs. So that's good. Only 4 walks since he's gone down there. So that's good. 8 strikeouts to 4 walks. Not bad. Small sample size, I know, but with the balls juiced in AAA, it's definitely something to put emphasis on. Or having different balls in every single pitch, because it's always inconsistent. Anyways, other notes that you want to add in here before we get out of here. Turn it around. I don't know. 6 straight losses. Just don't let it snowball. That's what we're asking.
Exactly.
Don't let it continue to get worse. That's what we ask. Obviously, this is a tough opponent, tough pitching matchup, of course. But again, like we've said, if you want to be a playoff team, you're going to have to beat these arms. Going to have to. You can't just avoid them and play a bunch of AAA arms because you're avoiding injuries or you're going around injuries. It's going to have to happen. Blade Tidwell, we turn to you. Let's hope you are better than you were last time. I don't think he could be worse, but I don't want him to take it as a challenge. So go out and get them, kid. Go ahead and prove that you're a piece down the line. Why not? Okay. Anyways, Frank, last things that you want to say, last remarks before we get out of here, going into the Mets-Phillies. Flush it. Just flush it from this last week. Don't even think about it. Move on. That's all I got to say.
Yeah, I mean, be better. Score more than 1 run a game.
Yeah.
Don't walk the ballpark. Don't try to pick up baseballs or your catcher mask. I mean, just, do the little things, I guess. Like, don't do dumb stuff. Like I said, play with your head on your head, on your neck, not somewhere else. Like, do those kind of things. I mean, that's really what we want to see.
Better baseball, efficient baseball. Please succeed with risk. Armand's got the good idea here. Speaking of Mets Phillies in the chat, I'll just let you guys know on the closing message here. 32% of you are saying that the Phillies will win 2 out of 3. 29% of you are saying that the Phillies are going to sweep. 23% of you are saying that the Mets will win 2 out of 3, and 16% of you are saying that the Mets will sweep the series. So we're a little bit of confidence is dipping a little bit from this team. But I'm glad that, people are aware that they have not been playing great baseball and, that they're a little cautious. I'm glad that everybody's looking at what we've seen this past week that has not been great. So they're going to have to earn a little bit of that trust back, which is good. Either way, thank you guys so much for watching. We hope you enjoyed the conversation. For those of you watching or listening on playback, you want to join the conversation live in the future, make sure to subscribe to the Mets Weekly YouTube channel and turn on those post notifications to know when we go live. Make sure to follow Mets Weekly on X and on TikTok, which mainly features Frank's instant post-game reactions. Follow all of us individually, including our third back, Andrew, who is not here today. And of course, like we said, turn the page, move on from last week. Don't play worse, please. Just don't suck, as we used to say a lot. Let's go, Mets, and we will see you guys next time.